You ever notice how sometimes the quietest nights can flip your whole life upside down? That's how it started for me. And if you're here thinking this is just another one of those medical mystery stories, you might want to sit down, because what happened to my boy Leo, well, let's just say even the doctors hadn't seen anything like it. Let me back up a sec. 9 years old and already acting like a stubborn old man, my son Leo had been fighting me tooth and nail about seeing a doctor for weeks. I tried bribing him, reasoning, begging, you name it. Nothing worked. Kid's pale as a ghost, curled up on the couch, little hands wrapped tight around his stomach, eyes squeezed shut like he could just wish the pain away. Just a little sugar, honey, I'd say, stirring his tea, trying to coax him into drinking something, anything that might help. I don't want it, he'd mumble, turning his head to the wall. I sat on the edge of his bed, feeling more helpless by the minute, brushing the hair off his sweaty forehead. Does it hurt a lot, sweetheart? No fever, but there's sweat pouring down his face, and his lips tremble like he's holding in more than just pain. I don't want to go to the doctor. I'm scared, Mom. Please. Now, you gotta understand, Leo wasn't always like this. He was the kid who never even flinched at vaccines tough as nails, I used to say. But this time, just saying hospital sent him into a panic. Last week, he knocked over a chair, bolted into the closet, wouldn't come out until I promised we weren't leaving the house. If you're a parent, you know that kind of fear doesn't just appear out of nowhere. One afternoon, I was taking out the trash, running on no sleep, and Martha, my neighbor, the kind who always means well, pokes her head out. "Your boy missed school again?" she calls. I nod, tell her he's got a stomachache, won't eat. "You gotta take him to a doctor, Claire. You can't mess around with kids." I'm trying, I say, but he's terrified. Won't even let anyone touch him. Martha goes quiet for a moment, then gives me this look. "That's not normal, honey. Something's wrong." And just like that, she mentions Andrew, my ex, the one with the tattoos and the 1,000-yard stare. She'd seen him out with Leo at 2 a.m. a few times back when I worked nights. I wanted to believe she was mistaken, but deep down, a pit of dread started forming in my chest. Still, I didn't want to believe it, not until that night, when Leo started vomiting. Not just sick, I mean heaving, choking, blood on the bed sheets. In that moment, all my hesitation disappeared. I scooped him up, barefoot, keys in hand, screaming for help in the middle of the street. We barely made it through the hospital doors before the nurses pulled him out of my arms. Everything after that is a blur, doctors in scrubs, machines beeping, questions flying. How long has this been going on? Any allergies? Any history? All I could say was, "Please save my boy." Dr. Bennett was the one in charge, the kind of guy you trust right away. Not because he smiles, but because he looks you dead in the eye and tells the truth. They did scans fast. There's something in his stomach 7 to 9 centimeters long. The nurse stared at the screen. How could a child swallow something like that? Dr. Bennett just frowned. This isn't something a kid swallows by accident. They tried to remove it with a scope first, but when they saw what it was, Bennett called for emergency surgery. All I could do was pray and hold on to the rosary my mother gave me. Leo was whisked away, and I waited hours past like centuries. When they finally opened him up, what they found didn't belong in a child. A plastic tube, wrapped in a torn nylon bag, leaking moldy stuff with pills. Even the nurses were shaken. "He's lucky to be alive," Bennett said quietly. "If it had burst, the infection alone could have killed him." He placed the tube in a tray, sealed it, told the nurse to alert forensics, and call the police. That's when it hit me, this was never just a stomachache. Leo was used by someone who saw him as nothing more than a hiding place. I thought of Andrew, those nights Leo spent with him, the sleep candy he used to give. My heart broke twice over for what my son had suffered, and for not seeing it sooner. The detectives came in the next morning, Herrera and Ruiz, names I'll never forget. They asked questions, took notes, showed more kindness than I thought possible for strangers. "Anyone else close to Leo recently?" "Just me. And Andrew, but that was months ago." They listened, no judgment, just calm, methodical questions. When the forensics team opened that tube, they found pills, synthetic drugs, potent enough to kill an adult. And a note, "Tuesday, ground floor, gray wardrobe, 10:45. Instructions." A clue. Herrera's face tightened when he heard, "We've got less than 20 minutes." They rushed out, and for a moment, it felt like the whole city was holding its breath. Meanwhile, Dr. Bennett and Nurse Morales, a quiet guy from Miami, pieced together the medical side. "A child can't swallow this unless they're forced," Morales whispered, "and only by someone he trusts. The truth, when it comes, is cold and sharp." The investigation moved fast. Cops raided a dingy bar called the Devil's Corner. They found more tubes, more pills, names connecting Andrew, a middleman named Rahul, and a slick operator called Mark Owens, a man who wore a suit like armor but had the eyes of a vulture. "You used children as mules," Herrera spat during interrogation. Mark just shrugged, hiding behind slick words, but everyone in that room knew he was the mastermind. In the end, what saved Leo wasn't luck. It was his stubbornness, his will to live, and the fact that for all my mistakes, I never stopped fighting for him. The night after the surgery, Leo crashed. Heart stopped. Code blue in the ICU, doctors shouting, machines blaring. For a minute, it felt like time froze until that tiny heartbeat flickered back to life. He pulled through bit by bit. The infection faded, the scars healed. The day Leo finally opened his eyes, he whispered, "Don't cry, Mom." And I laughed because for the first time in months, I had something to laugh about. The trial was packed. Andrew sat hunched, cuffed, staring at the floor as the judge listed the charges: possession, abuse, attempted murder. The prosecutor called it monstrous. Andrew mumbled something about being forced, about no choice. But I stood up and told the truth. Loud and clear, my son never had a choice either. The judge didn't hesitate. 20 years, no parole. Justice, for once, didn't feel hollow. People from all over reached out. An international child protection group gave us legal help, a new place to live. Leo got an honorary badge from a city. He wears it on his jacket, proud as anything. I found a new job, daytime hours, no more night shifts, no more secrets. We planted a mint pot on our new balcony and started over. Leo made friends at school, drew pictures of Dr. Bennett and the nurses, pictures of himself smiling in the sun. He tells me he wants to be a doctor, or maybe a superhero like Detective Herrera. I tell him he already is. One afternoon, we all met in the park, me, Leo, Dr. Bennett, Lucy the nurse, Morales the quiet hero. Sunflowers blooming all around. "I want to plant more," Leo said. "They always face the sun." There's a lot about this story that's hard to tell, harder to live. But here's what I know. When you refuse to give up, even in the dark, there's always a way out. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to stand up, reach for the light, and really listen to the kids who can't always find the words. So yeah, maybe this story's a miracle. Or maybe it's just what happens when people refuse to let evil win. I hope you remember it. I hope you talk about it. Was justice really served? Did the punishment fit the crime? Should mothers like me be blamed for not seeing sooner? You tell me. Drop your thoughts below, because these stories don't end in courtrooms. They live on in every choice we make, every child we fight for. And as long as there's one more voice, one more person refusing to let go, maybe that's enough to change the world, one light at a time.